Welcome to September, and with this being the first Sunday of the month, we have a new theme that all of the readings for this month will be based upon. It is September 7th, and I will be using the reading for September 7th from the 365 Tarot Spreads by Sasha Graham. The reading for this week or for today in the book, is called the Strength Card Spread, and a little bit of information that's included in the book. So the reason why this card is being used to be the theme for this spread is that supposedly a solar eclipse on this day in 1251 BCE may mark the birth of legendary Heracles, divine hero of Greek mythology. Heracles displayed strength, courage, and ingenuity. Hercules is his Roman equivalent. And so they gave a little bit of information. Obviously, this spread is connected to strength, and the strength card often represents an obstacle, allowing you to overcome your fears. Energy and calmness reign over brutality and force. Strength of character, high morale, standing, physical stamina, and health are all represented in this card. So the summation that they have for the spread is Heracles is depicted in the Visconti-Sforza deck as the strength card with his signature club and the Nemenian lion. This spread is based on symbolisms found in the traditional strength card. And so it looks like they're using various elements from the card itself. If you're familiar with that deck, then you would be able to pull the strength card out and see where the different elements are coming from and what they're pulling from. So they say, use this spread to answer any question. So format your question before casting the spread, or simply let the cards answer the question posed. Pull the strength card from your deck, place it in the center of the spread, and cast your cards around it. So the first thing I'm going to do then is go through my deck and find my strength card. This can sometimes be a bit challenging when you're going through something quickly and there are no words on your cards. So I'm just looking for another interesting thing is sometimes you have to be careful with the deck that you're using, because strength is usually the 8th card, but it's been known to switch around with justice, the 11th card. And so let me find my lion. That's usually a good way to find the strength card, is to find the lion. Oh, interesting. I don't have a lion. I have a tiger on mine. So the other thing that's interesting is a lot of cards have like the female on there with the lion or tiger in my case. So all right, so now I've taken strength out. There are 8 cards in this spread, 9 if you're including strength. And we'll see how they all depict, or how they all connect to strength. So I'm going to shuffle. And because they say that you can use any question, we'll just go for a general strength kind of reading to see what role strength is playing in our lives. So shuffle them all up now that I had to go through them all. All right, and shuffle. And now we shall put cards. All right, and the way they have these cards spread out is they have 1, and they go around basically like a clock, so that 1 and 8 are on the top, 2 and 3, 4 and 5 on the bottom, 6 and 7, and then 8 is up there. So I am going to, and so that way they're also going all around strength. Being limited in space, I'm just going to put them out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6, 7, 8. There we go. All right, so I'm going to put strength over here and see how they all connect together. The first card that we have, it uses the female character in the card. And the question that they've put with this symbol is, how am I reasonable? King of Cups. So it's interesting that we have the King of Cups here in the position that's depicting the female character from Strength. And so for my card, it does make a bit of an interesting connection because she is pouring something or has some kind of connection to the tiger. And so because of that, you're looking at, maybe that's a good connection with the water card. And so what you want here is to look at, what is the elements of the King of Cups. And so here we have someone who's been able to really kind of connect to that level of their inner emotions and has very good ability to regulate and to know when they're out in the public arena kind of thing, when they might be a bit more dysregulated, and the skills and strategies they need to be able to be kind and compassionate without having the appearance of being over emotional and stuff like that, which is really like a lot of themes of the strength card, right? So strength is about being able to be kind and compassionate without having to bully your way through to get to clarity or to get to your answer and stuff like that. And so having the female character represented here really does kind of look at, like how am I reasonable? It's looking at, well, you're reasonable in the way that you know yourself, you know how to be grounded in your emotions, and you know how to use them in a creative way to help be creative in your problem solving. So it's not always about, that more Aryan kind of masculinity where it's very muscular and brawly and fighting kind of to get your way. This is just somebody who's very good with compromise and is very good at being able to sway people. There is a sense of charisma here with the King of Cups that also is, alluring and attracting because it allows the to be reasonable in a way that allows you to be creative in how you solve various problems. The second one we have represents the lion, and as you already know, I have a nice, beautiful white tiger. And the question connected to the lion in most traditional card decks, what are my instincts telling me? And so we're connecting to that animal instinct. And here we have, interestingly enough, the Queen of Cups. And so having both royal cards here, having the King and Queen of Cups is very interesting because what it's saying is, own your creativity, own your emotional resilience, own everything about your communities that you're in, that you're dealing with. And because you have a lot of connections between the King and Queen is, here's your outer world, here's your inner world, here's the kind of rule setting, and here's kind of the nurturing. But you're looking at it all from that fluidity of the emotional sense. And so having the Queen of Cups here, when we're looking at what our instincts are telling us, she's very much, other than the High Priestess, she is the other one that is so connected to her intuition and is able to follow that flow of where the energy is going and all of these kinds of things. And so that's instinctually, that's what we need to tune into. That's what we need to be understanding. When we look at animals and stuff like that, a lot of them, they do navigate through their worlds through a pure instinctual manner. I was talking to somebody the other day who was talking about mice, for instance, who said, mice instinctually know where to go because if they've gone somewhere before, it becomes automatic muscle memory and they can kind of like walk there without having to see. They don't have very good eyesight. And so they basically kind of just wander around wherever it is that they need to go, following that kind of emotional based or that intuitive based kind of thing. Also, being that it's the Queen of Cups and it's the inner world, the other thing that I would think that the instinctual piece that's coming up too is being very aware of who you allow around you, who you allow within that heart space that is very, very important to you. Then we go to the Lemniscate, which is to me, I think I always call it a Mobius. It's the infinity symbol and everything. And this is saying, how can I expand my thinking? And I'm looking at my card, and we have no equivalent, sorry, on this card here of that symbol. But we have the Page of Swords. When we're looking at how can I expand my thinking, so the Page of Swords is coming as an invitation. So it's kind of knocking on the door saying, hey, I have some really great ideas. I have some really great breakthroughs that you can do. Are you going to accept the invitation? And that's where we really want to look at having these breakthroughs. We want to be able to pay attention to the thoughts that are coming into our head and which ones are going, ooh, that's good, that's good. And then expanding on them. A lot of times, we get these ideas and we're going, oh, someone else can do it, or enough people are doing that, or the resistance comes up and there's fear and there's worry and about, well, if I do this, maybe it's going to create conflict, or there's a lack of understanding. And so the Page of Swords is coming and saying, hey, I'm going to take your hand and I'm going to walk you through this step by step. I'm going to give you baby steps to kind of start to open up your mind, open and broaden. One of the other things that the Page of Swords is going to be coming in as well when we're looking at expanding thinking is what biases and judgments need to be cut out. What is it that needs to be removed so that you can open your mind to new possibilities? The fourth card that we have are hand gestures. So on this card, you can see that her hand gesture is that she's reaching out to the tiger. And it's interesting to see because you can look at, because she's reaching out and the tiger's kind of looking very pleased, she's either giving to the tiger or the tiger's very much focused on what to give to the lady. And so how can I be gentle to others? And here we have the moon. And the moon, again, here we have another very emotional card, which is interesting because strength here, if you see, it's connected to Leo, which is a very kind of fiery card. But we have now, so we have the moon, and the moon is very much watery. It's connected to, like our deep intuition. So now we have two cards that are very connected to intuition and instinct when we're looking at the strength card. And what we want to know is, like, when we're looking to be gentle to others, we have to understand that when we're dealing with others, everyone has their own frame of reference. Everyone has their own point of view. And so one of the things we have to be aware of is to be gentle about what people are perceiving around their lives, right? Like we have to be aware of, illusions kind of versus delusions. Are we having conversations that are shattering people's illusions about the world, about themselves, about you? And are we able to have these conversations in a kind and gentle manner? One of the other things too, if you look, you've got like the dog up here and the wolf on the other side. There's kind of also this idea of being gentle in allowing people to have their kind of wild side without feeling that there's this need to have to rein people in and tame them and capture them into maybe our own dogma, maybe our own conditioning. And so we really want to be kind and compassionate with how we're dealing with other people and being aware that we have never walked in someone else's shoes. And so whatever it is that's going on in their lives or in our lives, we have to be very kind and we have to be very gentle with how we approach difficult and challenging conversations and relationships. Next, we have the Garland Belt. Now, my beautiful lady is just wearing a big sash around her. And so kind of hard when I don't have that actual card to use, but we have the King of Coins. So now we've got two royal kings with a total of 3 royals. And then if you count court cards in general, we've got 4. So we've got 4 people energies that are kind of going around here, which is very interesting, I find, when you're dealing with a spread like strength here and looking at finding our strength, right? So these are the qualities and characteristics I feel that we're being asked to draw on. And so where should I place a boundary? This is really interesting, having the King of Coins, because the King of Coins is very much about physical boundaries, and he is the physical side of the Emperor. And so what you want to be looking at is, where are you placing boundaries on your physical limits, on your physical resources? Are you giving all your money away to people? Are you not open to accepting, resources and wealth and abundance from others? Are you, do you have issues with stamina? Are you burnt out? Are you um, taking value on yourself and making sure that you have boundaries around that? Now, the King of Coins is looking at boundaries between you and the world. And so that's where you kind of need to have the boundaries set. It's less about putting boundaries around yourself or around your intimate family and relationships. It's about, this could be, do you have really good, solid, strong boundaries that make sense and that are enforced at work? Do you have really good boundaries with people when you go out into the public? That's what this is asking about, is how are your boundaries the moment you leave your property, right? Like, so the property line, and it could be your apartment, it could be your house, it could be, whatever your property line is, whatever delineates your space. As soon as you walk out of that space, do you have really strong boundaries? And the King of Coins is coming in to say, you need to have really strong boundaries around your resources, around your physical health and wellness, and around any resources that you have, as well as any skills and talents. Because this can also be like, are people coming to you and asking you to use your skills and talents and then never reimbursing or never kind of doing an offering of equivalent exchange for you? So that's what we're looking at, is making sure that we have those boundaries in place. And because we're dealing with strength, the other thing, it's have these boundaries set up so that they are kind and compassionate towards the other people, especially when you're looking at, the stories and everything that people are coming to you with. But make sure that they are there to support you, as opposed to you being used and manipulated and walked on by other people. The next card we have, now this one it's the white gown. So she is wearing a white gown. And this one is asking, how can I bring about peace? So now we've doubled up on the pages, we've doubled up on the kings, and this is the third of the court cards for the suit of cups, which is very interesting that we're having so much water imagery and messaging and stuff like that coming with strength. Because strength, when you look at strength, yes, it's very much about, the courage to be able to stand up for yourself. But because there's that idea of being kind and compassionate and heart-centered, that's all the realm of the water cards and the cup cards. So the Page of Cups coming in and saying, the best way to bring about peace is to find opportunities for that. The pages are invitations. The pages are new beginnings and baby steps. So the Page of Cups might be coming in and going, go back to a time when you had peace in your life. Go back to an actual lived experience where you felt that you could embody peace, where peace was something that you could feel every cell in your body, just breathing it out and going, and that's what you're invited to kind of start to bring in. Find little activities that you can do. Find the people that will help you to do that. Find creative practices throughout your day that will allow you to embody peace within yourself. And the more you embody peace within yourself, the more you can actually share that feeling of peace energetically with the people around you, and then the people around them, and it spreads that way. They've done a lot of studies on how your energetics will impact people around you. So I think they said like the humans bioelectric field can impact people at least within a 6-meter radius. So if you're having a really horrible day, then that's impacting other people around you. If you're having a very peaceful, calm day, as soon as people come within that aura of yours, they're going to feel it. And so the best way for you to bring about peace is to find ways to embody peace. Next, we have a mountain. So I guess she kind of has mountainish kind of scenery behind her. What is the long-term goal? And now we have the third page. So we're missing one of the pages. We have the Page of Wands. And the long-term goal with this is to find all the invitations, all the possibilities, all the openings to reconnect with our passion, to reignite the source that provides us the energy and the motivation and the desire to get out there and do things. And so when we're connecting that to strength, which is, as I said earlier, a fire card, we're looking at ways that we can be compassionate with ourselves, ways that we can be compassionate with others, ways that we can find creative and inspiring ways to solve problems and to move forward. The Page of Wands is very much that little spark of hope and that little flame that we need to really kind of look at and ignite. And so she's inviting us to, one, to travel and see new things and clean our energetics out, right? So if we're stuck in the same place doing the same thing all the time, our energetics get mucked up, they get gummy, and we lose motivation, we lose desire, we lose any kind of wanting, and so she's saying no. She says it's time to kind of get out. It's go and explore and see what things. So when you going through your day, anything that sparks that, ooh, that's interesting, I would like to know more, or I would like to do more, or I would like to see more, anything that brings that kind of energy up, that's the invitation of the Page of Wands to say, hey, come on, our long-term goal is to live a passionate, vibrant, fully aligned, life where we're embodying wellness and, following all the things that we want. And that's what the Page of Wands is saying, like if that's the long-term goal, then what you want to do is you want to take every opportunity, big or small, to follow your passions and your desires. And the final card talks about the yellow background. Now, I have a very green background on mine. And the question for the yellow background here is, how does my intelligence serve me? And it's very, very funny that our last card is the one that I spoke of earlier, right? I said earlier, sometimes it's hard to find the strength card because strength and justice switch places. So sometimes justice is the 8th card and then that basically will move strength over to the 11th position. So to have strength here with kind of we'll put it in quotes, the sister position of justice, it's really interesting to just to kind of see that dynamic. But when we're looking at how does my intelligence serve me, justice is very much about, making decisions based on the facts, based on what is there in front of you, and not allowing past experiences, not allowing biases, judgments, conditioning, all of those kinds of things to interfere with how we're experiencing the world. And so we need to be able to also understand that our intelligence can actually be a downfall. Sometimes we're too smart for our own good. And so justice is coming out and saying, you're always going to end up having to, face the consequences of your choices and your actions. And so be clear, be understanding of what your intelligence is guiding you to do, and also be aware that sometimes what you know may not necessarily be accurate, may not necessarily be true. And so to really take time to see where are you using your intelligence from a bias or a judgmental or a conditioned prerogative, or where are you using it from lived experience? Where are you using it from, knowledge that what you know is really what you know? And sometimes, the intelligence can be like that logical piece where it's like, well, I have to explain everything. And even if the explanation is illogical, like, well, it's the friend of a cousin of a uncle of a whatever that said this to me, so it's got to be true. People are going to look at you and go, they're going to kind of question that intelligence. But the other thing about this with justice is it's also important to be aware of fairness, right? So intelligence isn't always about the brain. There's emotional intelligence, like there's body intelligence. There's a lot of different ways of knowing. And that's what we need to trust. We need to be able to stop kind of following these set ideas so that when we're interacting with people and we're finding the best solutions and the best ways to deal with whatever it is we're dealing with, we're coming from a wide variety of places, right? Like we want to make sure that when we're doing these choices based on the justice perspective of blind justice, of being able to look at the facts and look at the situation and make a clear decision versus kind of more that illogical or based in fantasy decisions that we can sometimes make. This also can be impacted by the times where, like we see the potential and we know what can be happening and we're basing our decisions on that without knowing what needs to go in place in order to get to that point. So to quickly summarize, as I said, so a couple things that I found to be very, very interesting is that you have, the two pages, the Page of Swords and the Page of Cups. You have the King of Coins, you have the King of Cups, and then we have, the Queen of Swords here. And some ways that the Queen of Swords is also depicted is, as I said, like she's kind of depicted here with the intuitive element of the moon, but she can also be depicted here in the Justice card of being the person who, almost kind of like an opposite, right? Like this is somebody that is very much intuitive and emotion based. And then here you have, sometimes you have to cut that out and be able to just look at what's actually going on. We do have a representation of all the elements. We have cups, we have swords, we have coins, and we have pages. And what's interesting, I think one of the things that's the most interesting about this is, so we have the two major arcana cards that are in here, but everything else is a court card in this reading. So everything else is asking us to call on our characteristics, our inner qualities, in order to be able to find the best ways for us to embody the true kind of essence of the strength card, which is, finding compassionate and more ease, I want to say, ways of overcoming problems and difficulties instead of just kind of forcing the way. But there's definitely a big level of courage and confidence that needs to also be in there to find a compassionate and loving and gentler way to find a peaceful resolution. So I hope you enjoyed this reading around the strength card. Again, I apologize that my card does not match up with the card that they had used for creating the spread. But I will see you next week when I go over the spread, and I can talk a little bit about that as I kind of take the spread and look at different elements about it and how it could be used in various different ways. So like, subscribe, and I will see you again next week. Take care.